We are live. Perfect, perfect, perfect. Yeah, it hasn't come up on my screen for some reason. Oh, no, it has. Wait, it hasn't come up on there. Oh, there's a delay. I didn't see it on my laptop. Let me just adjust that. Okay, just fire that away. Hello, everyone. Oh, I've got two people. Lovely. Um, for those of you who are watching this after the live stream, so in advance, I thought I'd do a live stream quite randomly. It has to be spontaneous these days because I don't get much time for live streams. So once in a blue moon, probably once every 6 months. Hey, presto. I hope you are all doing okay and everything is good and well, as good as can be in this world. So this is going to be a general, I say Mark 1 focus chat. It says that there, but it can be general, anything. So this is merely to keep in touch and those who want to post a comment. There are many comments that I can't get round to. If you have left a comment in a video asking a question, there's no guarantee that I'll be able to answer that because a lot of the time I look at my phone and then the current messages that come up are usually the ones for videos in the last sort of few days or whatever. Every other question that I may have missed gets bumped down and I never see them. So yeah, so just an explanation on that one. But anyway, hello Sorix, very new name to these live streams. I have never, you've never been in one of these. You must have found me quite recently. No problems, no problems at all for the help in the videos. No problems at all. Um, I try to focus purely now on how to do videos, nothing else. I used to do a lot more, and now I don't. And it will continue to be that way, even less so in 2026. YouTube doesn't really, it's not really working for me as it used to, not in my grand scheme of things with life. So I'll try and do as much as I can kind of pump out. There are many jobs that I do on my cars that I don't actually film because I have either done it before, I've covered lost ground, there's nothing more to be said, or it's just not interesting and I don't feel it myself. So if I don't feel it, you're not going to feel it either when you're watching. So no, pleasure to help you out there. Not enough knowledge in any car community on any cars. There's not many. I mean, there's plenty of YouTubers, mucking around and buying a car, doing it up, and then flipping it on when it's, it's they're barely started. That's a different world to me. Yeah, I try and stick with a car, and then I do many, many jobs on that car over a long period of time. Um, du- 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 Jason, hello. Sorry, Heart of England. Uh, is this menu playing up? No, is that your comment? Oh, you're at the Heart of England. Oh, well, that's something I should have gone to. Otherwise, I couldn't because of busyness. But I thought I would do this for now, so in the meantime. So enjoy. And the weather is really nice as it has been quite recently. So the lighting isn't particularly good in this video, so sorry if that's quite blurry. Usually it's a bit better on my phone. Not a problem, not a problem. I'm gonna let people just sort of filter in a little bit. There has been much news in the way of Mark Ones. Um, we will be having one of our last meets of the year as a club. Very soon. So that will go very well, and we'll press on with that one. Nothing really much to say apart from the fact that in January things are going to change very drastically, and that we are only going to be membership only as a club. And we're only going to have people that really want to be with us, and those who don't want to be with us, fine, we'll part ways. So yeah, apart from that, all good. Sorix, actually, I now have problem with my Fusion 1.6 bad starting after changing the coil cables. You mean HT leads? And sparks look like I need to change sensor, cam position sensor. So I will see. Bad starting after changing them. I hope you didn't buy a cheap coil pack. On that engine, Bosch, please. And the uprated version, so it will have long legs. The original ones have short legs and they pack up. They're not very strong things. The original Motorcraft ones, you should have. Well, actually, I would say with Ford Fusions, I think by this stage they'd already upgraded, but I might be wrong. But you should have the big legged um, coil pack, and it should be a Bosch. I've actually got a Delphi one fitted to my Mr. Inc. 2 litre estate. That's fine because Delphi are actually just as much as Bosch. They are leaders in electronic parts manufacturing, even though I think there's more stuff being shipped over to the Far East these days. But please make sure that it's not a cheap one, because I wouldn't start changing sensors willy-nilly and firing the parts cannon, because that's a real common mistake to make. Don't do that, please. Paul, I don't know. Another new name. Pleased to see you. And I've got all these new symbols. YouTube seems to have done a massive update, and my screen now looks very different. I don't know if you've noticed it over the last week. Like when you're playing a video, all the symbols look different. It's like they've tried to make it look a bit more cinematic-ish. Yeah, and I've got new symbols. We've got some crowns going on here. I don't know. This obviously means first Sorwick's first one in this chat, and then Jason second, and first, second, and third. Oh, that's crazy. I suppose it tells you how long people have been in the live stream for. I have a Mark 1 2001 16 valve 100 PS as a 1.6 pre-facelift, and thanks to your videos I could keep it alive. Thank you very much. Ingredients from Sweden. Very much, very nice to hear from you, and I'm really pleased to hear that. What are the Swedish focuses like? What I'm asking is, what sort of differences do they have, especially under the engine? Do you have sort of heater boost valves or anything like that, or immersion heaters? Because I hear some weird things for really cold climates. If there's anything weird that you think you've got that we don't have, let us know on that one. I'm fascinated on the Sweden, Finland are the main ones. I think they were the only ones to receive Mark 1s brand new, if I'm right. Some European countries never got them brand new. They were always imported. Tadas, Lithuania. Basically every car in Lithuania is an ex-German second-hand car. So it'd be basically like if in the UK we couldn't buy new cars and we had to import them second-hand from France. What a disaster that would be. I mean, we import a lot of stuff from France, and yeah. Anyway, no, seriously, thank you very much for that. No, that's fantastic. I completely forgot to mention that today I actually have had another video go out, how to change your idle guide on a Zetec. That's quite important for Zetec owners, and quite ironically, I've just completed the tensioner replacement, and that will be a video you'll see in about a month or so. Literally 2 days ago, and I can tell you now, the tensioner actually was in probably just as bad a condition. My recommendation is to change both the tensioner and the guide at the same time, because getting that belt on and off, it made it look easy on camera. It wasn't easy. It was horrible. You need a 15mm aviation spanner, like, about 2 miles long to get your leverage. You can't do it with a normal 15 or socket. You can't do it with socket. There's no room. There's absolutely no room. So you need a long 15mm spanner, an aviation one, nothing else, and you'll be able to change both SKF for both of them. I managed to buy an SKF one for £46 for the tensioner, and strangely enough, I've done the job. I used to have a cold squeal, which I thought was the alternator, that Napa alternator. I say that because I don't think I just I don't rate them. I'll see how this one goes. It could be a good one. There was a squeaky noise on cold, and it would only shut up after a few minutes of driving, and it would only ever happen, strangely, if you were in um, neutral park out of gear. If you put it in gear, it shuts up. So I thought, well, that's not alternator related because that wouldn't make a difference. Not on load aspect. And it turns out it's the tensioner. The tensioner was not only making a slight sound from the bearing, just like the guide was in this video that hopefully some of you will watch, but it also wasn't tensioning the belt as much as it should have been, because straight away after fitting the managing to get the belt on, you push into the belt and to get that free play of movement, and there was barely any. It was nice and tight, not over tight, really nice and tight. The old one, there was a lot more push on that belt, same belt, so it wasn't tensioning properly. And lo and behold, cold start, nothing, silent, fantastic. So if you're getting any noises from that belt area, do not think it's alternator bearings and power steering pumps or water pumps. Actually, I'd start looking at tensioners, and that includes Sigma engines as well. That will include every 1.6 with air conditioning. You couldn't get air conditioning on the 1.4s, air conditioning on 1.6s. So you would have a longer belt and a tensioner. I'll tell you now, actually, from doing a number of tensioners and taking belts off on plenty of Mark 1s now for timing belt changes, I prefer stretch belt. I honestly think stretch belts are easier. Taking the alternator off with the belt is actually easier on the 1.6 than a tensioner on a 1.6 with a long belt. That's my opinion. No special tools needed. That video, how to change a stretch belt, I had a look the other day. It's the most popular video I've ever done, which is incredible, absolutely incredible. I've no doubt many Mark II owners have watched that and done the same thing, because it's exactly the same on a Mark II. It's just that your power steering reservoir is bolted to the front of the alternator on a 1.6 Mark II, which is weird, but you just have to bolt that out of the way as just an addition. It's not ridiculous. Anyway, sorry, I had a Belgium Mark IV Mondeo, German Cougar Mark 1Z. Am I assuming? Quite interesting. So that's quite a mix from where you're from. So second-hand cars again. Jason had the day off, got my car ready for the show on Monday. We have better give it a wash again very soon. Certainly do need to do that to Mr. Ink. It's got Malaysian dust on it at the moment. So it's Fiesta Mark 6 and now Fusion 2004. I'm somehow sick. No, that's not sickness, that's sanity. Sickness is leasing the latest car and paying through the nose for something you'll never own. That's a sickness, and getting out of that sickness is a problem. Okay. Purple. I'll just say purple. That just sounds weird all the time. No, it's a normal one because it was imported from Germany. By the way, I ruined one screw at the oil pan before because I thought I needed to unscrew it counterclockwise, but I was wrong. No, you do unscrew it counterclockwise. It's clockwise to screw it in, lefty loosey, counterclockwise, righty tighty. So what's happened there? If there's a problem, I've heard two people now have come to me with stories of people cross-threading the sun plugs and finding oh goodness me, those coil threaders, etc., or epoxy. resin, metal epoxy resin with the bolt, wind the bolt in, and the epoxy goes off, goes hard, and oh my goodness, just for the sake, well, you've ruined the sump. And some cars, that's a pain, but on Mark Ones or any of these cars, it's a lot of bolts and there's a bit of sealant, but we just change the oil at the same time and change the sump pan. Um, it sounds like someone's cross-threaded. If you've had a problem, if you've undone it counterclockwise, that's the correct direction. Um, Someone's cross-threaded it or ruined the bolt, the sump plug. So you need a new sump plug, and I think you might need a new sump, unfortunately. But it's not the end of the world, because you can get them and that you can change them. It's just mess. It is messy. And my mum had the original water pump from Ford, but with the plastic handle, plastic inside. Yeah. So you've got the plastic one as well. I'm sure the later ones weren't plastic because I was convinced. I'm sure my 50 Shades did not have a plastic water pump originally. I took it off to change it for another aftermarket one. Gates. That was horrible. But I've noticed SKF, Enershafe, and a few other names of water pumps. They remake the plastic impellers. To be fair, plastic's fine as long as it's quality. Um, I've just heard of too many stories of particularly VW Passats of a certain age. They were terrible for overheating because the plastic impellers were all broken, so the water pump's just spinning and there's no impeller to spin the water. It's just a little straight shaft doing that all the time. There's no flipping around. And you're wondering if you've got a head gasket problem. It turns out your impeller's rubbish there's just no flow of water. Adam, pleased to hear from you, my friend. I'm really glad you got your coil pack changed, and yeah, it's just that back bolt again rounding off there. Those Torx fasteners for the coil packs are made of cheese. It should be a simple DIY job. It's not. Um, it takes a lot longer, but once you've bashed it out and what you've done, you snapped a corner, I believe. So you try to just snap the corner off, and then you use some pliers to get rid of the rest of the bolt out. As long as the bolt doesn't snap flush, that happened on 50 Shades. That happened. So the block it sits on is a platform with the threads for the four fixings, and you got your two coolant outlets to the cylinder head. So to replace that part, and I had to do that this year, in fact, because I had a spare one that was ready to go because the one on the car just had a bit of bolt that was just basically stuck in one of the thread holes. So I was driving around. I've literally for 12 years I was driving around on a coil pack with 3 bolts, but it doesn't matter. It wasn't going to go anywhere. So I changed that, and I had to mop up a little bit because of the coolant, but that's it. The difficulty with that piece is there's a metal gasket. I think it's either a metal or paper. I think it's a paper one actually, and that paper gasket is non-obtainable from Ford, and I had to replace it because it was in poor condition. In fact, the old one was virtually, it was stuck to the old housing that I was throwing away. You have to kind of scrape it off, and I had to scrape it off the head. And it was about £20 from Europe. So if anyone has to do that, you have to be aware about that gasket, and you can't use instant gasket. It's not appropriate. You have to buy a aftermarket paper gasket for that. I should say it's like a coolant elbow cylinder head housing ish. But honestly, the benefits of doing that are amazing. Because I heard when you left mine a slight misfire, and I'm glad that misfire's gone with that core pack. And to be honest, I'm not surprised that your car doesn't perform the way it does now, because if you've got a Mark 1 that works but it's got the original Motorcraft coil pack, and it still works. If you haven't got any misfiring, you just won't have the electricity, the voltage generation that it would have had brand new. You just can't. It's ancient. And putting a new one on, it's like, oh, the spark plugs are thinking, God, where's all this electricity coming from? Where's all the voltage coming from? In technical respects, voltage is pressure. So current is the amount of electricity going through a wire. Voltage is the pressure, and there would have been current going to the spark plugs, obviously, but there isn't enough voltage pressure, and that's going to get you a weak spark, because there just isn't enough of it, basically. So I'm really pleased. Honestly, I think I should do an episode on that because I can't believe people are driving around on the original coil backs. It's quite alarming. So if it hadn't have gone, I would have probably told you otherwise. But no, I'm really pleased. And the smoothness will come with it, and your fuel economy might go up a little bit. That's not why we do things, but we know that it will make an economy difference because it's more efficient. But the smoothness, the refinement, the performance, and the lack of any issues, misfires, that's what we want at the end of the day. No problem. And that was a Bosch coil pack. It didn't cost much, did it? And it came with the long bolts. They should all come with the long bolts in a kit, because the manufacturers assume you're going from the short legged to the long legged, so they will give you the bolts. So don't worry about that. I actually, when I bought and upgraded the coil pack from the original one on 50 Shades, I bought some second-hand long bolts because I thought, well, I'm going to need the long bolts. I didn't know that the new coil pack came with them, so I've got spares. Paul, right, okay, I've just seen that. Fantastic. I don't know why, but to loose it goes anti-clockwise. That's not right. Someone's been in there and someone's rethreaded that. That's not right. It's not a left-handed thread. That's a left-handed thread you're talking about. A left-handed thread is when you actually go clockwise to loosen, which is exactly what you've just said. Corner of coil pack snapped and the bolt stuck in, got it out with pliers. Yeah, was simple. Yeah, no problem. That's good. That's really good, Adam. Other than that, just had my Mark 1 clean, getting ready for Monday. Perfect. Well done. Can't wait. 45 pounds came with the long bolts. That's really good going. I think I could just about, I think I found one for 38 the other day, for somebody else. Once you've got the actual Bosch parts number that I send you, you're laughing because if you type in Ford Focus Mark 1 coil pack into eBay, you'll just get loads of Chinese ones, and all the Chinese ones, strangely, are the old short-legged ones. And I think I demonstrated this. I think I did one video where I demonstrated the weight. So we had a Bosch coil pack, the one you fitted, and we had an aftermarket Chinese one. I hadn't bought it. Somebody else had bought it. And I thought, oh, I'm going to take this because I did it as part of a job. I'm going to take this and I'm going to do a little shout out here. And the weight, I put them on my scales. I think the genuine one was 4 times the weight of the aftermarket Chinese one. I couldn't believe the weight of the copper. That's what you pay for. So honestly, I honestly, if somebody came to me and even if it was like a quick could you swap my call back over, which isn't an easy job as you know, easy as it should be. If they gave me that Chinese one, I'd no chance of not fitting that. It's a waste of time. Might as well just continue with what you've got. The one that you threw in the bin, Adam, the one that you've snapped, actually the one that you're going to give to me because I need that one as a demo piece. That's a much better one, even though it's misfiring and low powered, than a brand new Chinese one. No more cons. I know what you mean. The weight of the Bosch pack is it's heavy and it's good, isn't it? You know, you want to, you know, you hold it and you think this is heavy. This feels good. Yeah, anything that feels heavy in a car, fantastic. You don't want light stuff because light just means cheap, unless it's made of aluminium, which you shouldn't be. Um, right, okay. I will actually get on to what I was going to mention. We're about almost half an hour in. Okay, we've got about 16 people. There was a post earlier today. We've all seen it. I've replied. It's quite funny, actually. Some of the comments. Autocar. That's Autocar. They have done a post quite randomly with a shot of the Heritage Aquafrost 1.6. I think it's yeah, LX with the very rare light graphite interior. S54 TVX. I'd love to see that in the flesh. This car is in a picture, and the strap line is now is the time to buy Ford's best ever car while you can, and here's why. Wow. I mean, that's amazing. I mean, I didn't expect any. I mean, I'm very cautious about saying and giving bold statements to cars unless they really deserve it. Because what is best? Yeah, best car of the 90s, best hatchback, best people's car, best dynamically. There's so many best categories, isn't there? But you could say, I mean, I've said it. It's a great people's car, and it should be up there with two CVs, minis, the Mini, the original Mini, the two CV, the Beetle, because they transformed their eras. The Ford Model T, they defined their eras very much so in the culture they were in, and they were very important cars where they were built and the time that they were built. And the Focus Mark 1 is exactly the same because it completely revised what the customer expectations were of an ordinary hatchback. You know, beforehand, I mean, Escorts weren't bad cars. They got you from A to B and they did a job. And to be honest, I'm sure a lot of people these days would, if Ford said, we're going to bring back the Escort, we're going to remake Mark 6s, we're going to stick the 1.6 Z-Tech in there, 5-speed manual, off you go. I think it would sell like hotcakes. Even honestly, if they were asking 25, 30 grand for one brand new, there'd be a queue. They couldn't make them quick enough. And honestly, that's how good a car that was, right? It might have been a good car. It was never excellent. I don't think, apart from the Z-Tech engine, I don't think there was any area where at the end it was excellent, but it was good in most areas. And that's what you want from a car that's built to a price that most people just want it to start and go to A to B, you know, reasonably comfy. And, you know, it's got what you need, really, just about. Even though it looks a bit funny, the buttons are chunky and things are very down to a price. And that's where it fell short. It wasn't a class leader in any respect. Whereas this is. And it set the benchmark. And it not just set the benchmark in terms of saving what now we look back and it's saved Ford, but we look back and we think, well, it set the benchmark for everybody, every manufacturer. There was not one manufacturer who was making a hatchback that was as good as that car when it came out. VW, miles off. VW Golf Mark 3s, horrible. Mark 1s and 2s set a great benchmark in the 80s. In fact, I would probably say you've got to include in this category of great people's cars, Golf Mark 1 and Mark 2. 100%, no question about that. But by the 90s, it aged, and the Mark 3 wasn't it, and the Mark 4 was a bit better. And it was better in the interior than a Mark 1 because VW spent a bit more money on it, but it's not quite. It's just not. it doesn't really do it. It's very Germanic on the inside, and if you want that, plenty of people bought Mark IVs. Where are they? Where are they? I'm going to come to a couple of comments which are a bit weird. But there are no Mark IV Golfs. Have you seen a Mark IV Golf recently? They're rare. Mark Ones are still common as muck compared with Mark IV Golf. So clearly the better car. People decide on that one. It was a better car back then, and it's lasted the test of time now. Mark V Golfs are actually worse than Mark IVs in many areas, but they tried to catch up with certain things, independent suspension, that sort of thing. But the looks were terrible. So that's how it defined its little era. And it's got so many design tweaks on it that it was just copied and replicated. And if you look at every modern car now, you'll see the lines everywhere. And naturally, though, Ford did a bit of copying themselves. Those rear backlights on the hatch models, they are a superfluous design related to that car. If you drew those lights, you'd know what car they were related to. They were definitely an inspiration from the Fiat Punto Mark 1 rear lights. Fiat had already done this before Ford. It is a common thing that Fiat used to do things before Ford, and Ford actually copied them. But I think that was the only thing that Ford copied in this circumstance with this car. But they didn't copy it, but they just took inspiration. That's a different thing. Everything else was, clean sheet, blank piece of paper. I don't think there's, from what I can recollect, actually, it's quite interesting. Apart from the physical drivetrains, your Zetec engine, of course, obviously the Sigma was never fitted to Escorts. Zetec engines, MTX 75s. Don't think IB5s are fitted. No, I don't think they were fitted to Escorts either. Apart from those two drivetrain pieces, okay, I think the only parts that will fit from an Escort onto a Focus, apart from obviously, little clips in there, forget that. That's on every car. Are the seat belt valances. So the plastic bit of trim that goes around your front seat belt stalks, it's held in with a clip and a little plastic pin. They are the only items that were reused from the interior of an Escort. Everything else is completely new components. I believe that the single electric window switch that you will get on the back window, if it's rear electric windows, and the front passenger window, that is also shared from previous cars. Apart from that, you won't find anything. That's how good it was. I don't think many cars are like that. I think only even cars like, the Beetle possibly used parts that have gone before, but very, very, very few, because of the fact it was a clean sheet design. The Mini was clean sheet, but it used quite a few components actually from the Austin A3035. VW Golf, not sure about that. Don't know enough about Mark Ones enough to know that. But yeah, honestly, I might have to switch the light on in here. Not even this light is good enough. Losing the light again. We are getting forward towards the winter. I'm going to look at some comments, and then I'm going to read some funny comments, because obviously it's asked an open-ended question. Autocar, Practical Classics, they really like Mark Ones. I've been saying it for years, and actually I find some of the comments quite different in this time. So I'm going to actually veer down, but beforehand, do excuse me, I'm going to switch the light on. Right, that's a lot better. Right. Okay. So if I just look at the comments, oh, that's a lot better. Jason, I remember when the Mark One was launched. I thought, wow, what a step forward. Couldn't afford to buy one. So I had to bide my time. Yeah, I think that was a lot of people. I was only 5 when they came out. But I do remember seeing some of the really early ones. They look like space shuttles, especially in silver. You know, the launch color, you know, silver Z-Tech 3 door. They look like space shuttles. Um, people, it was risky because people might not have taken to them. Hey, Brown, Um, Ford proved they could develop a good car with the Mark One Mondeo, but they went above and beyond with the Focus. Yes, I mean I think the Mondeo is Mark One is a superb car. Mark Two and Mark One, especially Mark One, because the looks are superb. Um, Absolutely. Um, I think the DNA certainly found its way down the line, and strangely enough, most of the design team for Mark One worked on the Mondeo Mark One, but they also worked on the Escort. Incredible, actually, that these people were actually, quite frankly, they were inspired to do different things and to be a bit bold. It just goes to show how much the management of Ford were holding the whole company back by being overcautious. That's what it comes down to, overcautious of losing business. And I'm sure there were some scars from the Ford Sierra days where they tried to be bold, but they weren't bold enough. They went 50-50. You know, the car looked bold, but then they decided, oh, rear wheel drive. They didn't really want to go the full length when they should have done. And they paid the price for that. And I think with the Focus, they kind of knew they just had to go all in and correct the mistakes of over a decade earlier. Andrew07, hi Andrew, been doing some work on a 1.6 E-Tech gear in the family, had to sort out the dreaded scuttle seal. The seal on the filter has failed. The seal on the filter housing. The seal underneath the plastic housing. Oh, that's a really unlucky one because that doesn't often happen. Those seals are pretty good. Um, yeah. So what I would do, that seal you need to order. I don't know what you've done to replace the actual scuttle seal on the windscreen. Okay, you need to order closed cell foam. Okay, a few millimeters in width and thickness, and double sided. Scrape the old seal. You have to get the old housing off, couple of bolts, take the whole housing, plastic housing out, get the seal off, scrape it off, clean the surface of the actual scuttle area, give it a good clean. Just if anything falls into the heater, just vacuum it out, please. Um, and literally stick that seal either to the housing or you could just stick it around onto the scuttle so you know where it will sit and make a complete bead. Okay, and where they join together, just butt them up quite closely because that's where water will try and be sneaky. If you want to put some silicone between where the seal will actually join together, obviously, because you have to cut it, and then put housing, bolt it down, no, all good. Okay. Um, so you really that's the only thing to think about there. Very good evening, my friend. Adam, they're no doubt great, but the VW Golf's never interested me. But I understand if you are, each their own. Um, I wouldn't say. Well, I think they're good cars. Mark IV, they're better than Mark III's, but they're not for me. Not for me. Never into VWs. I'm never interested. I think they're incredibly overrated for what they are. But they have their pros. They have their cons. So the Focus is. Um, but there was a clear winner here. So I wouldn't look at one because I'm a Focus person. Um, but no, never interested me either. But just because a car doesn't interest me, doesn't float my boat, doesn't mean I'm going to be dismissive about it. You have to be open-eyed about this sort of thing. And I'm very well aware there are some unbelievably good cars of that time. Things, some cars that even the Focus cannot achieve. But the point is, it fulfilled its design brief. There is a good video by B Sport about the Mark 1 rear suspension, the genius rear suspension everyone copied. It shows how far beyond the competition was in. I need to watch that. I really do. It's clever, isn't it? It really is. They ditched it with the Mark 4 Focus, and they kept that suspension for 20 years. If you look at the Mark 1 or Mark 2 Mondeo rear suspension, they'd already done an independent rear setup. If you look at it, you'll see where Ford were going. Now, the control blade suspension is a compact version of that, because you'll notice the amount of space it takes up with the Mondeo, because you've got these two massive rods that go in. Those are the control arms. And then you've got the coils mounted on the struts. Very old school Ford, that, right? And you've got the control arms in just these little bush rods. Honestly, they look quite fragile, but they're very strong things. And then you've got rods that go through the train arms. You've got quite thick train arms and train arm bushes. Ford knew they used that as a template, and it was good suspension, fantastic suspension. But I think, in terms of functionally, it did the same job as what a Mark 1 control blade does, but you have to make it compact. So the only difference, I believe, is the compactness. Okay. And obviously they try to make it a bit stiffer. And obviously the other thing with the blades, the train arms, because they're the blades, they're so thin that they can flex. When you turn a corner, they're constantly bending. It's passive rear wheel steering. It's superb. There's fantastic geometry there. So your back wheels are where they should be, always planted, which is why it's so important that if you haven't had the train on bushes done, that you might think about doing it, because if those train on bushes are the originals, you are never going to get a Mark 1 that handles the way it should. It's always going to be tired at the rear. I'll have to watch that. You've got to give credit for Ford for being brave the Mark 1, especially after the backlash in the 60s, the CEOs in the 80s. Absolutely. But also the audience was different. In the 80s, the audience is conservative. Okay. They've been used to Cortinas, God, they were really bad. I'm sorry. I'm not interested in Cortinas at that age. They're Mark 4s, 5s. Excuse me. The audience was still very staid and conservative, and they weren't bold. Whereas I think by the mid-90s, even in the early 90s when the Mondeo came out, audiences were more open to bold ideas. The world was changing. People's attitudes were changing. What we had in our houses were changing. We were welcoming really good technology. I mean, goodness me, we started seeing flat screen, what we call flat screen TVs in our houses in the 90s, if you could afford it. Most of us still had the old CRTs. Literally, you get a static field about 20 meters away. And people were open to that. And the same with cars. So 2 reasons the Sierra didn't work is Ford weren't bold enough. But also the audience that they were catering for weren't equally bold either. Whereas in the 90s, it all worked lovely. They were bold, people were open, it worked. That's what you do. You have the right product in the market at the right time. Apple did it, at Apple with the smartphone, perfect product, perfect time. Simple as that. Internet on your phone. Wow. So it's the same thing. Luke, my dad had a Mark 1 Ebony, 200,000 miles on it, still going strong. Good to hear that. And it will continue to do 400, believe you me. Just change the belt, change the oil, a timing belt that is, and the oil every year or two, and you'll be fine. No issues with that. strange enough, I think it appears that I'm suffering a bit of lag. Okay, I'm looking at my screen. I'm suffering a bit of a lag here. There may be a lag to some of your comments because there's a setting where it slows down the comments. Because last time I had and I couldn't keep up, so I've had to put a filter on to slow the comments down. So if you type a comment, it won't go through immediately. So sorry about that. It's just to help me. Handle 007, good name. Hello to the channel, sir. Had a funny problem the other day. Major rattling behind the offside passenger seat, roughly where the reverse speaker is. The nut for the shock absorber beyond the carpet completely fell off. That's a new one. Have you had the shock absorber done recently? Because I've never heard of that. That's a new one on me. It will come off if it hasn't been tightened up properly, but the chances of that rattling off is unbelievable because that would mean that the shock absorber was actually spinning for it to come off. Oof. We thought the suspension had gone, screwed the nut back on, and all was fine. Tighten the other one to be safe. Original shock absorbers too. Oh, that's not right. That is that's a new one. Ooh, don't get hatchback. Hatchback owners will be worrying about that, and saloon owners. Check the top nuts. Nope, that's a new one on me. I can only imagine someone's been in there before and disturbed it, but I wouldn't know why. But those nuts to shake off. I mean, have you been driving off road to shake the car about? I mean, I've got to be honest. If that nut's shaking itself off, what other things have been shaken up? I'm a bit okay. That's a new one on me, but I'm glad that's been sorted and the cheapest repair possible. Right, let me just go to this posting on Autocar. I'll read out some of the comments. I'll read out the first one. It's just hilarious because I replied to this person constructively. Fellow called Mark. If this is Ford's best car, I wouldn't like to see the worst. That's the worst comment. I'll just start with the worst one, and I'll work my way up for that one. There's always one, and I just I couldn't help myself, and I've just replied. You clearly never driven one. None said about that one. There's always one. I think some people just want a reaction, and to be fair, I've given them a reaction, but oh. I've had some right comments off some of my members. Kieran Walker's posted pictures of his Focuses, two of them, and his dad's. His and his dad's. Paul Ridley. Paul, if you're watching this, bought my Focus ZTEC 1.8 in 2013. One owner, 26,000 miles, £650. Absolutely love it. Keep it as original as possible. Flying the flag. Thank you very much, my friend. That sums it up really nicely. Ross Kennedy, this generation of Fords were excellent. I loved the Mondeo of this time and owned several. They were so good. At one point, I'd sold an E46, bought a Mondeo, didn't regret it. Would love to go back in time and pick up a 2-litre 3-door Focus. Very good choice, and what a very good comment. 28 people like that. A ZTEC 3-door Focus, maybe in silver or whatever color, is going to be one of those collectible Mark ones. I really do. You'll have your RS and your STs. Okay, they're naturally people veer towards them because fast forwards are collectible and valuable. I don't see them like that. But if you want a car that is hugely collectible and really nice to show off at the show and really be proud of, 2-litre ZTEC 3-door. End of. In any colour. But silver's an advantage. And I know a particular member who's got one and very low mileage. Oh my goodness. That is a car you keep lock, stock and barrel. Um, I've got to actually veer down on this. Robert Christie still looks good today, even 25 years after it was released. Think how dated a car from 25 years prior to the Focus looks now. You can see these have aged well. What an interesting comment. So he's referred to the fact that cars from the mid 70s would have looked quite ancient by 1998. So you take any 70s car. Let's take a Mark One or Mark Two Escort. Look how dated that would have looked in 1998, 20 odd years later. Yet 27 years later from the launch, yeah, you get the point. That's a very good comment. And another 12 people enjoyed that. That's very, very good. Um, Simon, excellent to drive. Such well connected steering, feels planted to the road. Suspect rust is the main enemy. Yeah, I suspect that he hasn't owned one in a long time. If he has said suspect, because suspect is not a word. Mark One and Rust go together. There's no suspecting. um, John. John, easily one of the best. It was a class leader for decades. Ford had previously done well out of being entirely average across the board. The last generation of Escorts saw that backfire as disappointed customers ran away in their drones to better rivals. VW, Peugeot, oh, Vauxhall as well. Yeah, well, certainly Vauxhall. I mean, Vauxhall Astra Mark IIIs any day. They beat Escorts in every department, as far as I'm concerned. Mark Fives at that particular time. The only model of car I've had more than one of. Love the Focus. If I was in a financial position to buy one as a keeper, I would. The turbo diesel was really nice to drive. The turbo diesel Mark III was really nice to drive, but the current Mark IV is as balanced, maybe even more agile. But the petrol engine's obviously better for our air quality, doesn't pull the same. That's a fascinating comment as well. How interesting. Mark IV's a good. Mark IV's are excellent products. They're excellent cars. They just the looks of Mark IVs. If they got the looks right, it would be just as good as what I would view as a Mark III. Does it wear the badge? Well, yes, it does. The way it drives, but not how it looks. Um, I'm not sure how I'd want it to look because you can't take such a lovely design like a Mark One and make it look good. The Mark Two facelift was as close as, to be honest, and that suited its time well. I'll just read out a few more. I'll come back to the comments. Um, Dad bought a brand new one in 2003 MP3 edition, 1.8 to replace his Escort 1.8 SI, direct replacement in terms of the engine. Good idea. The difference was massive. The Focus was fabulous. Robin had a 1.6 gear for 13 years, longest I've ever kept a car. Would love to drive one again if it's still as good as I remember. Get a good one, and it certainly will be, my friend. Had a Mark 1, Mark 2, both good cars, proper workhorse, cheap to fix. Moved on to a Mark 4.5 Mondeo Estate for more space, 2-litre TDCi, good engine. With a remap, upsets many German cars on the road and similar size engine, car and engine. Yes, that's quite a common thing that I've just read. That's the third comment here where people have gone from a Mark 1 Focus or Mark 2 to a Mark 4 Mondeo. Stuff the Mark 3 Focus. That's interesting. And we know why. The petrol options are a bit risky unless you go for the old 1.6, which is a good option, but it's not the desired option because it's a much heavier car with a much older engine. Chris, still love mine after 20 years. Used to have a TDCi as a daily. Both pretty good cars, just for some regular maintenance. Even the TDCi in standard form was a hoot to drive. 250 newton meters of torque, brilliant handling. He looks as if he had quite a modified one, but nevertheless, good comment there. And I'm glad someone's mentioned about the diesels. Lee, possibly a member. Muscle White. I think the Mark One is the best car Ford has ever made. Definitely a member. Definitely a member. Um, we like to have a, we like to say we're rose tinted, but we're not because it's just they are what they are. Um, I've owned it since 2002. I've owned a 2002 1.6 for 15 years now. Mark Saxby. Seen a few Mark Focuses recently, still look good. I drove a friend's once, just a 1.6, and it was excellent. There's no such thing as just a 1.6. 1.6 is great, you know. It's not just. I don't like the word just there. It's like saying, it could be a 2 litre or ST. Yeah, just 1.6. It is a 1.6. The creme de la creme, as far as I'm concerned, the car that people bought. Um, I had a Puma. It was definitely one of the most enjoyable cars I ever drove. On the downside, Fords of this era soon developed rattles everywhere. No, definitely not Mark 1s. Mark 1s don't rattle. Even with shockingly poor engine mountings, they don't rattle. I had two Mark 1 RSs, both brilliant, very underrated by the motoring press. Um, they weren't underrated because RSs were a bit of a disappointment when they came out. Their torque steer was severely bad on them. A lot of motoring journalists, including Jamie. I don't pay too much to Jamie Clarkson. I've got to be honest, but most motoring journalists kind of conclude that they're difficult cars to live with on the road if you really push them. If you don't push them, if you don't drive them like they're meant to be, this is a weird thing about an RS. If you don't push them the way they are designed and utilize that all those horses, that 213 horses, you're going to be absolutely fine. You won't experience the poor the severe torque steer, but if you do, you're going to have an unruly car, literally, um, which is a tough car to drive. But I suppose if you're a good driver, you can handle that. So it's their own on that one. I don't like Jeremy Clarkson's views on a lot of things, to be honest, because strangely, he'll have one view back in the day with the old Top Gear, and he'll make a new view. Best view, and this is why I really don't value him as a motoring journalist. To be honest, he's more of an entertainment presenter. He will make a comment. I think it was a 1999 Geneva Motor Show. No, it wasn't. It was the NEC. It was at a motor show at the NEC, and it was the launch of the Rover 75. No, Rover 25. No, Rover 75. That was it. Okay. It might have been 98 actually. And he said what an accomplished product the Rover 75 was, and this is a car that Rover really thought clearly about. There was some other quotes, I can't misquote him, but if you look it up, you'll see what he said. All praise. And that is what I view as 75. Very great design car. Just looked a bit dated for the wrong audience, not young enough, not sprightly enough, but nevertheless, as an engineering piece under the skin, superb. And Jamie made no bones about that. Now, skip 5 years down the line with new Top Gear, which is now an entertainment show rather than actual. They have done some good things down the years, but very, very few and far between. And they literally sat there on their news feed at the sort of beginning of the episode, and they would laugh. Oh, those boys at Rover being at it again. They brought out a facelift of the Rover 75. Shall we go and have a laugh at this? Oh, it's horrifically bad, isn't it? What do they even bother with this shell of, They said a few other things. And I thought, you said that was an accomplished product 5 years ago. And now you're saying it was a pile of poo from the start. Something along those lines. Please go and look it up because it's just absolutely hilarious. Honestly, another story. Gareth, I have one with less than 30,000 miles on it, just such a good daily driver, easy to service, get parts, brilliant MPG. One of the cars that does exactly what it says on the box. And that is what you want from a Class C segment car. Does what it says on the box, but even better. That's what you want. Second generation Focus was superb. I had two of them. They were both excellent cars. Probably better than the equivalent VW Golf at the time. And frankly, that's high praise indeed. Somebody else replied to this, had a Mark II TDCI, 2 litre TDCI. When we bought it, the Mark V TDDI Golf was our other option. Should have bought the Golf. Focus was a money pit. Haven't had a blue oval since. Don't feel missing out. Turned into the blandest cars on the. Actually, sorry, that's a very poor comment. I'm saying a Mark II is bland. The early look looks bland, but they're not bland to drive. When you say bland, do you mean driving or looks? It's certainly not driving. Maybe looks early on, but not bland. The bland is not in the vocabulary of a Mark 1, Mark 2, really. But interestingly, if you're going to say that a Mark 2 Focus is bland, I hope that you're going to suggest that most other cars were bland as well, because you can't sit there and say that a Mark 2 Focus is bland. He hasn't said this, but I'm sure he probably was trying to insinuate that a Mark V Golf TDDI wasn't bland. And that's wrong, because they were quite equal. I'd say very much equal in terms of the way they drove. The looks, Mark IIs. Each their own on that one. Right, let me just go to some comments. Oh, wow, lots of comments here. Mars, hello, my friend. How did it go with the steering joints? Can't remember which steering joints. Oh, steering coupler. On the Fiesta, that went well. On the Focus, I did something else, but whatever I did, it went well. Sorry, I've done so many jobs since then, since I last saw you. Honestly, really pleased to see you, my friend. I hope, I don't know if you went to the Heart of England, but I'll naturally see you there at some point. Might be in 2 weeks, we'll see. Paul, what do you think about adding liquid moly for oil? You can, but I'd really just want to change the oil for quality oil, rather than that. Just my 4 penny. Adam, nice in all these nice comments. I agree the 3-door ZTEC ST RS would be the most collectible, but I'm still proud and happy to have a 1.6 5-door. Do you know something, Adam? People in the future, the way I see it is, very few people, a small group of people will like the cooking models, the everyday, your CL, your LX, your ZTEC, your gear. But I reckon the rarest car that we're going to have in the future is an LX, because gears, top of range, lots of toys, end of. ZTEC, the sporty version, people have it because of the name. CL, people will buy them because there's nothing barely to go wrong on them in some respects. And that's something really, honestly, to enjoy in a Mark 1. CLs are brilliant. Honestly, I've used the term with CLs, poverty. That's wrong. I will not say that again. They're not poverty specs. They're the lowest spec, but they're not poverty, because you're getting one and you don't have as many gadgets, but you still get a Mark 1 that drives like a Mark 1. And with that 1.4 litre engine, Nick proved it, you can drive on the motorway with that engine. Yeah, okay, it's not fast, but it gets you from A to B very well indeed. It's designed as a town car and a B road car, not a motorway car. I actually find it funny when people bought 1.4 CLs in the past and complained, oh, it's slow, sluggish, underpowered. No, you've bought the car that is wrong for your needs. You need a 1.6 at least. So I find that with a lot of people, they'll buy a particular car with a particular engine, and then they'll complain it's not fast enough. Or the post this week that really annoyed me was someone asking, "I've got this 1.6, but it's not powerful enough. Can I? Is it hard to swap it out for 1.8 or 2 liter?" And needless to us say, many people replied saying, just go and get a 2 liter or 1.8. Get the car. What are you doing? You know. So yeah, I think many people discover that a 1 point. People, I praise a 1.6 if it's in good condition, and people will probably go out thinking, well, Andrew said a 1.6 is a good engine, so I've bought a 1.6 and I'm not happy with it. It's underpowered for my needs, maybe because it needs servicing, but to some people, maybe it is underpowered because they're used to a bit more performance. So the easiest thing to do is admit that you've bought the wrong car and say, okay, I'll just have to sell this one and get a 1.8 or 2 liter and learn from that. And that's fine. So no, an LX will be the rarest because it's not a CL, it's not a ZTEC, it's not a gear. It's a middleman's car. It's going to get ignored. It's going to get quite ignored, I think. So no, stick with it, Adam. Stick with it, because being a 5 doors, well, this is what people drove. It's not free. Well, obviously you couldn't get a 3 doors in LX, but it's what people drove. That's more important. 1.6 is more common for the time, best balance of performance economy. Yeah, absolutely. Tell us, I'm all right, my friend. How are you? Really glad you can join us, my friend. Really glad. After the timing job, can't wait to try Mark 3 timing job. Good luck. You'll be fine. You'll be absolutely fine. Take your time. I'm so sorry we couldn't see you this year, but we're planning ahead with a few things. So press forward, and I'm glad you've got the space to work on your car now. So as far as improving your Mark 1, it's an open door now. That's going to give you a lot of confidence. You're not going to come here on the basis of doing that. Okay, just that's not fun with the distance you drive. So fingers crossed. Nick, hello, my friend. How are you? Long time no speak. I'm okay. Are you okay? It's been a while since I've actually spoken to you. As people will know, I ain't done any videos because Nick does not own a Mark 1 no more, for various different reasons. But he has a lovely Mark 3 Mondeo V6, and it's going well, isn't it? It's going well. So I think you'll be coming back to Mark 1s though. I think we'll see. But sounds like you're okay with that. So I'm pleased that you've got the car that you want to own. Sounds nice, don't they? Sound lovely, don't they? For Duratec V6. So no, good choice. A lot of people would have probably thought, "Oh, that's a tough car to own." So good on you, Tadas. I think in the far future, diesels will be very rare. Well, they're rare now, Tadas. I don't know if you. Oh, well, they're rare now in the UK. I don't know what they are in Europe, but they're rare now. It's getting so concerning. I honestly think this came up the other day. The TDCI. If you own one of them now, I would jump at the chance of buying one that's very rusty and stripping it for the engine, all the running gear, the ECU, transponder kits, everything to do with the drivetrain. Because I'll tell you something, that's going to be hard in the future. If you don't have a spare engine, ECU, and bits, I think that is something owners need to think about doing if they want to retain their diesel long term. There is about people not even on my hands where I would say that's the case. They're going to be ultra rare, ultra, absolutely. I would honestly say there's going to be about less than a couple of hundred of them. As I say, there's less than a couple of thousand, a couple of 2,000 something in the UK. I think in the UK there's going to be less than 100 because there's going to be less than 100. There are less than 100 people that want them. It's the only variant of a Mark 1 where I think I would say, I would justifiably say to you, go and break one for these bits because they're hard to get now. You should not be breaking a Mark 1 for any other bits, if any other variants. Petrol, no problem. I would personally like an automatic ECU because they're unique. Automatic gearbox that will come later at the right price. Mariam, hello, how are you? I have a question about the crankshaft pulley on my ST170, which is the same as a 2 litre. Yes. Should I change it? And if yes, should I go for OEM or Febi is okay? Ooh, don't go for Febi. Do not go for Febi. There should be, don't go genuine unless you have to. Do not buy Febi. You must, don't buy any Febi that's rubber parts because I don't like them. I've said this enough. Try and find if there's a BGA. BGA should make them. Go and look them up. They should be producing the crankshaft pulleys. You got the parts number, BGA, anything other than Febi. Do you think after the knuckle replacement I will need alignment? You could check it. You could get it checked, but maybe not. You should be fine. I would do an alignment after knuckle. Lots of things that this is, yeah, but there's this big, massive, no. Just because you disassemble and reassemble something does not necessarily mean the tracking goes out every time. If you change the suspension component, yeah, it could affect it, but more often than not, it doesn't affect it, strangely. And remember, the only thing you can adjust is the tracking, right? That's the only thing you can adjust. You can't adjust the camber or caster. Your camber and caster are adjusted by the suspension components being bolted, torqued up in position where they should go. If you've got caster or camber issues with your Mark 1 and it's original, it's not messed with, then you've got worn bushes, simple as. Tracking is literally just you toe in because it's toe in on a Mark 1. Toe in by 0.15 of a degree or 0.10 of a degree at the front, and at the back it's 0.20, so even more toe in at the back, which is quite interesting. Because the wheels they'll go straight as you pull forwards, basically. It's front wheel drive. But no, a knuckle wouldn't necessarily do that. Mars, rough idle, why? I don't know. That's an open-ended question. I need a bit more detail than that. I need more detail than that. I can't answer that. I'm afraid, mate, my friend. You're gonna have to be more specific because rough idle could mean a few things. But personally, if anybody's got rough idle, straight away, when was a core pack done? When was spark plugs changed? When were your HT leads done? Right? Then, if that makes absolutely no difference, you possibly have a throttle body that's really coked. Clean that out, see if it improves it. That's a universal answer, and it's a good answer. Tadas, they are not rare in EU, but in future I think we've gone because the EU's have dated diesel. Well, I think the EU hates any sort of car, Tadas, let alone diesel, from what I've found out. They don't want old cars. Good technology, but in the days very yeah, they are. They are, but yeah, it's a bit of a fight that. Bruno Fix, I've done an engine swap. 2-litre estate, 1.6. I didn't buy another car because it is hard in my country. Oh, well, right. Okay, so that answers that. Croatia, to find a good example. Right. If you're in a country where it's just simply, it's simply not possible to get another car like that, yeah. It's very odd because the first thing to note is that in the UK, you could not get a 1.4 estate. You could only get a 1.6 estate, even on the lowest spec CL. So that's quite interesting how the 1.4 was offered as on the estate in Europe. That's a good swap. That's a straightforward swap. So I'm not surprised you've done that. Going from that, that's fine. But going from a Sigma, which is what the 1.46 is, to a ZTEC 182 litre, two different engines, and that's two different windings. You need a different car. That's fine because it's the same engine. And if you can't get the car, then obviously you've got to get the engine. So no, you are able to do that because of the wiring is exactly the same. Nick, I'm okay. Moved to Carlisle last Friday. Didn't realise you're living in Carlisle now. You're by somebody we know. Looking forward for another Mark One as I miss working on them. Need to ask about September the 6th. Yes, 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 yes. Don't say any more on here because this is a live stream, but yes, yes. Yes, those are in the know. Don't give away um, um, locations or whatever. You'll know what I mean. Those of you in the know. Marion, the thing is for the crankshaft pulley, I have to choose either OEM, BTA, FIA, Febi, or oh, it's okay. FIA, FAI. Go for them. Yep. Hi Andrew, Sid drives. Hi Andrew, Sid drives. Okay, can the anti-roll bar drop links bend? As I've taken the top nut off, but won't pull out. They can be very tight. They will come out. They will come out, but you mean the rear anti-roll bar links, tiny rubber ones with a bolt, with a big threaded bolt that goes way through. Yeah. Sometimes the bolt can be stuck. Is that what you meant? Yeah, just to clarify that because the front ones, I'm not sure you're referring to that. Regarding the diesel, I live in Romania. I have had a little list of Mark 1s I spot on the street, and for around 100 cars I've seen in the last period, only 31% of them diesels. Quite a nice percentage, that. That's quite high, actually. Usually UK, it's probably about 10%. Can you give me your email? No, I can't do that. The reason being, I got rid of my YouTube email because I was getting 20 million emails a day, and I just had to knock it on the head. I can't answer everybody's problems. Just be explicit about the idle. Is it a low idle problem where it's almost cutting out? Because I can tell you what that is. That is the inlet manifold coked. You will need to remove the inlet manifold and clean inside the pipes. There'll be loads of coke. Biggest problem on Mark 1s at the moment, and keep repeating it. Bruno fixed my estate 1.4 was with air conditioning. That's amazing. We would never have had that in the UK. You cannot get aircon on a 1.4 here. Everyone I saw was without it. So swapping to 1.6 was easy because 1.6s can have aircon. And my car is in state blue, which is very, very rare. I've only seen one, which was at a show. Yes, it is a solid colour. State blue. So your car must be a 1999-2000 car. And I guess, yes, because it was only offered for that sort of period. Very nice colour. Hey, Brown, you can do limited camber and caster adjustments by moving the front subframe. You should be doing that. No. With camber, you can only split the difference by moving it side to side, and caster can. No. I don't know how you do that because I'm telling you something now. To line the front subframes up, you need, I believe, an 18mm socket, and it should go through the holes straight into the chassis of the car. If they do not go through on both sides of the subframe, you have not got the alignment of the subframe correct to the body. You are going to have issues, and yeah, it would affect your caster camber, but The second thing is the bolts for the subframe will not go in easily. If your subframe is only fractionally out, it will go in they'll go in cockeyed. They might even cross thread because they might even scratch the subframe as they're going through. So to adjust the subframe, I am skeptical about that because from my experience, there's only one way. You get it lined in perfectly or you don't. I have heard of a weird tale how somebody had poor camber on one side of his Mark 1, and it was because the shock absorber, the strut, was not down into the knuckle where it clasps and that pinch bolt goes through enough. It was that much too high. The knuckle was too low on the strut. Now that's a poor aftermarket shock absorber because you'll have a hook. So you'll have the hook on the back of the strut, and that pinch bolt cannot go through. It literally, you can't get it wrong. You cannot get that wrong. This was obviously a poor aftermarket one with the hook in the wrong place. So he managed to adjust it so the strut could go into the knuckle a tiny bit more, and the camber was okay. This is where you get decent. At KYB, never have a problem. You can't do it wrong. So yeah, it's bit of a weird one. The chap I used to do alignment did his ST. He did this when I got my ST 170 set up. I'm doubtful of that. I'm skeptical. Yes, it is a 2000 year. Yeah, got that right. It's a state blue. It is. Also, Marion, yours has got 1/4 air conditioning. That's interesting. Mars, I changed the valve. No, that won't make a difference. That won't make a difference. I haven't even read the bit, but idle still keeps fluctuating. When I press the clutch, RPMs go down on its own. No. This is another thing people do. People think, I got idle problems, change the valve. Makes no difference. You might as well stick the old one back on. They don't go wrong. Okay. If there is an idle issue with your car and you haven't got any warning codes, you have got a manifold that needs cleaning. That is your problem. Clean the MAF sensor. Yeah, that's probably a good thing to do because they do get dirty, but it's not gonna make any difference. Kamikaze Pilot. Hi Andrew, my 52 plate TDI gear saloon is going well. Had it 11 years, 88,000 free miles. That's a keeper. Keep that. That's very, very rare. Diesel saloon. That's very rare. That's very, very rare. And being a TDDI, oh goodness me, that is a very, very rare category at that age. That's pennies. Your car is in the penny numbers. Nick, what sort of Mark 1 do you reckon I should be going for? Z-Tech Gear LX. You go for the best Mark 1, Nick, that you can afford, not the spec. The spec is a bonus, so please buy the best one in really, really good condition, and save up for it because then you really will have less to do. Another thing I noticed when I put the car into neutral while driving, the RPM does not drop. Either sometimes yeah, it's the problem that I've mentioned about the inlet manifold. Nothing to do. You could check the breather, but the breather wouldn't cause a problem. If a breather hose has a hole, you'll know about it instantaneously. Your car won't run right. I'd go for any Nick that's in decent condition, regardless of spec or engine. That's a very good answer, Adam. Just what I've said. I'm pleased that you've said that. Check your breather pipes. No, Nick, definitely not. But it's one to check, nevertheless. Marion, there is a thread on Club Forum regarding the idle problem. It has over 100 pages. Right, I have seen these. I've seen all this. People gone to Ford, and they've had to do like an idle sort of remap or something to make it idle higher. Oh, what you're gonna go? This is the point I'm gonna make now. You can't go to Ford for anything, right? Can't rely on them for anything. We have to help ourselves. And the idle issues that 99% of Mark ones have are dirty throttle bodies. Very dirty. In fact, my friend David is doing that exact job on his 1.8 petrol saloon, and I received some really disgusting images after he's removed the manifold. It's actually worse than Mr. Ink. It's literally, you could probably say, a tenth of the airway is missing. That's how much coke is lining the pipes. That's going to take a lot of cleaning, but that car is going to be utterly amazing when it's finished. No, he won't have idle problems after that. So yeah, there could be 100 pages from 100 different people, and I will say one thing: inlet manifold. Adam Joe, just take the idle control valve, give it a clean, replacement not usually required. Yeah, it doesn't hurt to clean it, and it will do it good. Because I do get very gummy. Tadas, fun fact: my car has almost drove to the moon. Oh goodness me! 370,000 kilometers. The moon is 384. I didn't know that actually. That's quite interesting. Those TDDI engines probably can get a million miles if you take care of it. Yeah, yeah. Well, there's always a well. You never know. There might be a 500,000 mile focus or 500,000 kilometers. That could be your car. It's got to be a diesel. You also have to see the live data and interpret them long term, short term. Yeah, the problem is with doing that is you need to know what causes long and it's all good reading on a computer that your long term fuel trim is very poor, but what do you know what's causing that? I really do ignore this kind of information now because Mark ones, it's basics. It does actually come down to cleaning stuff and real basic stuff. The other common problem is people change oxygen sensors. Don't do that. The originals are NTK sensors, and the I've only heard of a few instances where they fail, and it's usually the heated elements that fail, and it flags up a code. Just change it. Get another second-hand one. Get a NGK. Go to them because NGK NTK are the same company. The NTK are the original manufacturers of the Ford oxygen sensors. So go to NGK for new ones. They might not have the same coloured green plugs. They might have like a white or blue plug. It doesn't matter. They'll clip in the same way. Um, People change them thinking, oh, it's going to cure a problem. It's not. Oxygen sensors, they're just readers, right? They just read. Okay, they've got a little heating element and they read. They don't do anything else. And people change them thinking like that's going to cure the problem. Doesn't. Uh, that's a biggie. That is. I've tried a bit of mix and matching myself over the years to come to that conclusion. By the way, so what I'm saying is it's based on my own learning mistakes as I've gone along on my journey with Mark ones. So yeah, please hear that. Don't replace idle valves. Don't replace oxygen sensors unless you're getting a code to tell you there is a malfunction. Um, You must clean the intake of the car and replace the gaskets. Replace the gaskets. Sorry, thank you, Marion. That is a must as well. You must do that. The gaskets will be hard and flat, and they're very easy to obtain. Adam, after seeing comments on others with high mileage, my Mark 1 on 38,000 miles is barely running for 1.6. It very much is. I'm actually going to go to the auto car. I've got some comments to go down to. Find a funny one. I still think a Mark II ST was the best car they produced. Well, it's not the car people bought though, is it? Um, Buy a three-door with a 1.6 petrol engine, sweetest handling everyday car ever made. Can't complain about that. We had a 1.8 16-valve company car, fastest car out there. Perhaps not, but at the time it wouldn't have been a slouch. Uh, duh, 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 duh. I agree. Own 4 Mark 1s, including RSs. Brilliant cars. Yeah. Ford are a shadow of their former selves. Puma or Puma. Late 90s peak. Usual stuff. Still got one 25 years later. Lovely. I love how deftly the suspension is taking that corner. Oh, the focus in the picture is taking a corner quite sharply. Richard Perry, RPJ magic in action. I definitely, bless, bless the man. This is an interesting one. Had a saloon, an estate. Mom had a hatch, dad had a saloon. Absolutely brilliant cars, but rust will be a killer these days. Unfortunately, my argument now is rust is not the killer because people are kind of dealing with or dealt with rust or maintaining it. Electrical problems are the next one. I think we're getting over the rust period, the worst of it. But these days, unfortunately, always fancied the ST or RS, but for the money there were more fun options. I like that comment straight away because yeah, the Mark 1 is one of these very rare cars where you can honestly argue that the cooking model, the normal models, you would say, the non-STRS models have just as much fun for it, as far as I'm aware, with the cost of an RS these days, a 25th of the price, you know, um, it's it's I don't know what it is, but it just makes sense to me. But it's a very good comment. Had a 1.4 petrol, worst car I ever had, constantly giving trouble. Oh, sorry to hear that. Then I had a 1.8 TDCi van, and it was unreal, never a problem, and loads of power. Oh, so you don't like the engine, but you obviously like the car. That's that's a fair point. You right, so immediately I'm sensing an issue here. He bought a 1.4 petrol, and he thinks that a 1.6 a van. I don't know what that's about. There never was a van. I don't know if he's referring to Mark 1 there. That's not right. There was never a van option, so I'm not sure what he's referring to. But nevertheless, the fact that he's bought a 1.8 diesel, plenty of torque. So clearly a 1.4 is not going to match that. So he clearly bought the wrong car in the first place. Not the car's problem, the owner's problem. It's all right, we all make mistakes. Bit late now to find one in decent nick. I think we're all laughing on here at that one. That's a funny joke. Well, let's see if I can find another one. If you can get the parts. That's even funnier, that is, from a bloke called Terry. Yeah. Rarity value, I quite fancy a saloon. Not practical, but you don't see them about. Should have a conversation with my friend David about how practical they are. Yeah, don't agree with that. Not a Ford guy, but agree the Mark 1 Focus was peak Ford. Interestingly, this guy's profile picture is of a Mondeo Mark 3, so maybe he's a bit more Ford than he makes out, but nevertheless. RS models are the ones you want if you're looking for an investment. Wasn't a massive fan when the RS first came out. Think they look awesome now. Yeah, can't complain about that. They are good investments, and that's what they are. Not cars. Not really. Not if you want to use one. If you've got an RS and you use it, fair enough. But most of them are not used. They're investment pieces. It was definitely a bold move for Ford to kill off the Escort in favour of something so totally removed from the norm. Yeah. Served my apprenticeship on these. Great car. Ha. Weetabix by now. Probably one that he used to own, but that's funny. My first car was one. I loved it. If it wasn't for illness, I'd probably still have it now. I have an X-Reg estate. Feels better built than my Mark IV Mondeo estate. I wouldn't say that actually, because the estate versions are a bit creaky at the back. There is a lot of I think there's a little bit of flex in that rear bustle at the back. Which makes me think that the estate wasn't quite as well thought out as what you thought. Like, in terms of how it looks, it looks great. It looks, it's a smart car, but I think there's a bit too much flex in it a little bit. And those are most of the comments. There was a particular one which was interesting, that there aren't many left because of rust. And I thought, oh, okay, that's a funny one. Well, our cars must be living on borrowed time then. That is most of the comments here. Unless unread. Sadly, all rotting away now, unless collectors have stuck them away somewhere. No, that's not right, because they're definitely not all rotting now. Because I'll just go and. Oh, sorry, guys. I'll just go and check my Mark 1. It might be rotting in the garage. Fucking hell, honest to God. It's what some of these comments. These comments are interesting because I've not actually seen some comments like this before. Especially, there is now a serious perception amongst the because people who reply to this are car people. There is, and car people spot things, right? There is a serious perception now that the Mark 1 has disappeared rapidly. We know this, but now people are aware about, oh, I don't see any more. They must have gone away to Weetabix, literally. And I think that's rather good, because I'm glad people have actually just spotted that, because that actually makes the ones that are in great condition, more valuable, more interesting, and it just means that my club is in the right place. Our club, the Focus Club, it's in that right place. Let me just get back to the comments. I'm going to stop this by 1:45, so in another half an hour. About 20 minutes or so. I'll get through these comments. Mariam, I was not referring to Ford itself. We have a forum. Guys like us try a lot of things regarding the idle issue, and it's worth reading. Sorry, I don't think I read that one properly. No, I'm aware about it. I'm aware about the forums, and I've probably read that exact posting many years ago, because it's quite an old one. That. Yeah, I don't agree with half of what's said, to be honest, and that's the problem with forums, is that yeah, it helps other people. It doesn't help me, because I know what I know about them. So I'd like to know the last time I asked a question on something relating to a Mark 1. There aren't many technical things about a Mark 1 where I have to ask somebody else. I asked Craig Shovlin something ages ago, dear Craig, who did the suspension job on Mr. Inc. I asked him something, but I can't remember what it was. But honestly, if I ask something technical about a Mark One that I don't know the answer to, I'll write it down. I will literally write it down because what I don't know much. Diesels, I will ask questions on, and I've got two people I'll ask about diesels. Obviously, you, Tadas, and Adam, who both of you know quite a bit. Adam, especially the number one diesel specialist I go to. And because I've not owned one, I probably won't own a diesel because they don't suit my needs. God, get an automatic with them. That's not the reason why, anyway. But diesels around Birmingham, I can't do it because my work is kind of in the zone, so I can't drive a diesel to work. So and yeah, I can go around with a 2 litre petrol automatic, and that's clean air zone compliance. Bloody hilarious. Um, Sorry, I've lost the Tadas. I think the future Mark One will be soldering components of ECUs and electrical parts. Yeah. Well, I wouldn't do that because I ain't got a steady hand. But I would certainly get it done elsewhere. But it might have to be done. Paul, I had a problem with the long-term fuel trim. It changed the lander sensor, and at the end, it turned out it was just because of the bad fuel in Sweden because of the 95 had too high ethanol. Yeah, that could affect things a little bit. The ECU's just accounted for it. What I'll tell you what's happened there. Your short-term fuel trim, that's what you need to keep an eye on. Your short-term fuel trim is what the computer is actually doing at that very second. And if it is close to zero and hovering like -3, +3, -3, +3, kind of around that area, minus, as long as it's within sort of 5, -5, around zero, and averaging and flip flopping, that's brilliant because that is the computer working out whether it needs to add or subtract fuel at that precise moment to meet demands. The long-term fuel trim is the long-term keep alive memory in the ECU. Okay, so you have to do several drive cycles and all this information on acceleration and deceleration, everything. It goes in the keep alive memory. Okay, and that is registered as long-term fuel trim on your scanner. Okay, as a percentage. And if it's off, 50 Shades is off. Mr. Ink is perfect. 50 Shades has always been off, and I've never understood why. I've changed everything. The only thing I've not changed is the ECU, which is interesting because I might do that one day if I feel brave. But it's not a problem because the short-term fuel trim on 50 Shades is zero. Perfect. And that means things are good. The long-term fuel trim just means that maybe something is amiss, but the computer is compensating nicely. That's all you need to know. Changing the lander sensor, again, didn't work in that scenario. It's poor fuel. But that's an interesting point, that is, Paul. Marion, that's a nice bit of info regarding the O2 sensor manufacturer. I had an OEM one fitted when I bought mine and changed it to a Denso. Ooh. No. Don't rely on that one. I don't like Denso spark plugs either. Yeah. Try and change it for an MGK one or a second-hand OEM one. Andrew, I only just caught you live. I have a Mark One I've had a Mark One couple of years ago. It was far from Concourse. Oh, don't worry about that. None of them are. 1.6 2001. Just used it as a stopgap. Did 54. No, without any servicing, oil change. You disgusting person. Disgusting. No changes, no servicing. Just Russ got hold of it, but the Focus Mark One, the mechanics are bulletproof. Well, they were bulletproof to a point. They're not bulletproof these days because of age. Actually, that is something I won't say. Bulletproof. It's a term I've used, but it's a term I shouldn't use because it gives the impression they're just going to soldier with no problems. Some do, some don't. Some will have problems, and what we are going through is a phase where we're doing the same jobs to our engines, especially the same work and the same suspension work. We're all doing the same work because they've all got to that point where they require that. But there's bulletproof is not in the category of Mark Ones. If Mark Ones were bulletproof now, I wouldn't have done any work to Mr. Ink. I'd have bought it in January and spent not a penny on it. But you can't do that. The amount of things that I've discovered on that car that were really bad is untrue. Suspension and engine related. Guide pulley videos just come out today. I discovered the tensioner 2 days ago was poor. So yeah. When I remove the injectors for the manifold clean, I have to change the O-rings. No, you don't. No, you don't. Be very careful with them, and you can get replacements, but they have to be special O-rings, fuel resistant O-rings, please. I haven't got a measurement. I have got a couple of spares because I could do a couple of O-rings. They don't really go that hard, and they don't really leak as far as I'm aware. But I don't know the size. Maybe it's something we'll come to in the future. As long as they are not broken, they don't generally go hard. But as long as they're not broken, you get them out. The tip is inspect the rail when you've pulled it out. When you're putting the rail back in and then putting the 2 bolts down, please make sure they've popped in. Put lots of silicone spray on all the O-rings and it will just slip in. Simple as that. Marion, good. Yeah. No need to change them. Manuel, hi. Thanks for your videos. Thank you very much, Manuel. No problem at all. Ford. I have a Ford Focus Mark 1 for 2004. Doesn't say Z-Tech on the engine. No, it may not. Doesn't say Z-Tech on the engine. What is it? I will say by that stage they'd eliminated some of the badging from the engines. So if it doesn't say anything on the engine, I think it's a 1.6. Because they removed, I think the Z-Tech branding on the Z-Tech engines, 1.8, 2 litre, continued to the end of production. But the 1.4, 1.6, Adam's got this example. There is no writing on the cam cover because at that stage, the Mark II Focus had come out and they had rebranded that engine as the Duratec. So they wanted to remove the Z-Tech SE name as just to avoid confusion or something like that. Marion, did you check the evap system when you press the clutch? I wouldn't worry about the evap system, honestly. Unless you get a code, don't worry about the evap system. They don't go wrong at this moment in time. Don't open the canister, Moz. Do not open that canister. There is no need to do that. Your idle issue is not related to evap systems, believe you me. Paul, I have Focus 1.6, clean the injectors in an ultrasonic cleaner and found the O-rings at Auto Dock. Oh, that's interesting, Paul. You found the O-rings on Auto Dock. I'll bear that in mind. I'll make a note of that. Just for future reference. How do I know which version I have, such as the Gear or Futura? You're from Europe. Futura is a German model, I believe. Or I don't know actually, but I'm sure it's German. Could be a German spec. I wouldn't know which one to tell you. If it hasn't got Gear badging, you might have a Futura, if that's how it's pronounced. My doesn't have. Yeah, Adam, yours does not have Z-Tech SE. They removed the writing for the light mod. Yeah. So basically, as soon as the Mark II came out, they removed the branding from that particular engine. You'll have a 1.4, 1.6. It's a 1.6, Manuel. Yeah. Yeah. So that's why it doesn't say anything on the cam cover. Your engine is a Sigma engine, branded previously as a Z-Tech SE, but on your car, they removed that branding. Purely because Mark IIs had come out in Europe at that stage. On my 1.4, there is no Zetec SE on the valve cover. Yep, that's the same. Yep, yep, yep. There was a van version of the Focus. I did Google pictures. Well, if they did a van version, it's not in the UK. I know there's been some conversions. I'm good friend. No problem. Veros, maybe they removed the writing because the entire engine became. Yes, that's a very good point. The Sigma engine was also used in the Volvo S40 and V50. Yes, because obviously they became the same company, and it was purely a Focus underneath for those cars. Yes, yeah, yeah. Branded as a Duratec engine. Engelman, good to see you, my friend. Veros, fun fact, you can fit the Volvo specific engine cover to solve common Mark II issues with water in the spark plug wells because they have the cover, don't they, over the spark plugs? Ah, yeah, yeah. That is a big problem with Mark IIs, isn't it? With washer fluid, and washer fluid does corrode. Yeah, I know. That I've pretty much got to the end of the comments. There's nothing really more to be said apart from the fact that people are now going to this auto car sort of sharing post. That post has been shared out quite a bit actually. I'm glad because people actually perception wise have just woken up and realised, oh god, they've disappeared. Where they're gone? They must have rusted to crisps. Or the fact that owners are keeping them on driveways and garages and they are keeping them nice. And I'm glad that that's happening. There was one ridiculous comment. I think it was something to do with immigrants. The only people that buy Mark ones are immigrants who drive them into the ground. Ooh, that's a bit strong. That is. That comment was deleted off that post. It's not there now, strangely, but it was, and I thought, well, that's that's not right. Many people from all walks of life have used Mark ones as bangers in the last few years. Um, everybody, everybody from any walk of life. Obviously, I'm not one of those people, and many of you are not, but we know that that does happen. Cheap cars attract people on tight budgets and are equally treated very cheaply. We're still seeing that within the community. Well, we're taking all the people that probably want to be with us long term, and that's a good place to be because I kind of tire of I tire of helping people who don't really care about the car. They just want to keep it for a little bit longer because it suits their needs as a banger. That's not what I'm in it for. I'm certainly most of you are not in this for that. But no, seriously, that is it. That's as far as we go with everything else. Yeah, unfortunately, I think that in Europe they're still. I think Europe's attitude to cars is very different to the UK in terms of heritage. I think it's just as soon as a car that there is literally no nostalgia. There is literally right. You know, my car is broken. It's old. Scrap. You know. In the UK, we're a bit more. Can we try and keep it going? Even though people don't care about their cars necessarily, there'll still be an element of that. Whereas I think in Europe it can be very cut and shut with old cars. There is no connection. There is no emotional connection to the vehicles. It is pull, scrap, gone. Next car, scrap, next car. It's literally dum 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 dum. From one to the next. I really find the thought of hopscotching from one car to the next every year, or even I know people who only hang on to cars for 6 months. That really would stress me out. Yeah. You know if the timing pin for the crankshaft is the same on the ST170? Yeah. As far as I'm aware, it's exactly the same. No difference. No difference. You'll know. You'll know straight away. Because as soon as the crank butts against that pin, you should line up. The cans should line up at the end and the bar should lock. Okay. You'll know if you've got the wrong pin. If you basically lock it up against whatever pin you've put in and the slots are way off, like 90 degrees off or something, or 45 degrees off, something stupid like that. Okay. You'll know about it. even if it's like, 20, 30 degrees off, if it's significantly off from a straight line, you'll know you've got the wrong pin. Right, I am going to leave this here because I have got to eat. But thank you all for joining. I just wanted to share a little bit of love and feedback from some of the fantastic posts that have gone on social media. And what a wonderful place to be owning a Mark One at this moment in time. A place where it's taken some time to get to, but the be end all is we are where we have always wanted to be right now. And looking forward to 2026 and beyond. Oh goodness me, what a lovely place this is. So yes, the strap line from Autocar is buy one now. Yeah, yeah, because I'm actually struggling on Facebook to find not even good ones, just any. You go on Facebook Marketplace, you'll find plenty of Mark Twos. They're a wash. Late Mark Twos, early Mark Twos have gone the same way. Um, so yeah, time to buy one is now. Spend a couple of grand on the best one you can be. There have been some amazing ones in the auctions. There's a particular one, a 1.4 CL, three door at Anglia Classic Car Auctions. Guide price of £3,000 to £4,000, and it has only done remarkably one owner from new, 2,000 miles from new. Oh my goodness, that will need some work to be used. Perishables, but wow, someone's going to get a car. That's a collector's car, and that will survive. Someone's going to buy that, and somebody's going to stash that away. Because, like I say, CLs, they'll have their attractions as well. Sort of same people that go for Escort, Fiesta, Populars now. It's something interesting. It's different because what's to go wrong with this? Thank you, Nick. Thank you, Adam. Boys Tadas, Marion. Thank you very much for joining. Yeah, we've been very lucky with the weather this year. Apart from Festival, the unexceptional. Couldn't make that. The weather was dreadful on the day. Ruby was all ready, and it was sodden, and I'd lost the interest. I do not drive that car on bad days. So I will leave you be. If anybody wants the part number for these O-rings, please take that parts number, write it down immediately, which is what I'm going to do. 893.889 before the injector, and there is one after the injector. Now, by the way, the one after the injector is the one you want. Okay, that's the one you're going to want, which is MCP003. MCP003. You may want to order a couple of them just in case, but put a bit of silicone and the injectors will pop back in. Clean intake manifolds, that's my word. Take care, guys. I'll see you in another episode at some point soon. Farewell.